WNBA Finals, and so I'll leave it there. I mean, I'm just obviously disheartened. I'm a human too. I have a family. I have 2 kids who are devastated by these comments, and so all I'll say is just, it's obviously.
They made her a record financial offer. They believed that offering $1 million compensation would be sufficient to quell the critics and ensure the league's survival. It was meant to be the definitive arrival of the WNBA and the ink on paper cementation of the new age. However, Caitlin Clark and the Women's National Basketball Players Association, WNBPA, achieved the unimaginable. They declined. They were not only hesitant, they left the table entirely. According to reports, the consequences of that refusal have now claimed the largest victim to yet. The league administration has shockingly informed us that Commissioner Cathy Engelbert is officially out. There was more to the rejection of this new CBA agreement than merely a negotiating strategy. The WNBA's leadership structure has collapsed due to a vote of no confidence. The league misinterpreted the revolution taking place inside their own locker rooms, believing that they could purchase peace with a paycheck. You must examine the recently rejected offer in order to comprehend why the commissioner is allegedly packing her bags and why this particular rejection was the last straw. If you appreciate this content, consider giving this video a like and subscribing to the channel. Believe it or not, more than 83% of viewers haven't subscribed yet. It's free and only takes a second, but it means the world to us. So, did you subscribe already? Great! Thank you so much for your support. Now, back to the video. According to sources, the league eventually gave in and proposed a plan that would allow elite players to receive basic pay and incentives totaling more than $1 million annually. That seems like a huge victory to the casual fan. Compared to a few years ago, when the maximum income was roughly $200,000, that is a significant increase. The players, headed by the enormous influence of stars like Caitlin Clark, Napheesa Collier, and Breanna Stewart, walked away from what was meant to be the golden ticket that would have preserved the 2026 season and avoided a labor disruption. Why? Because they understood that $1 million is little in comparison to the billions the league is expected to earn. You must examine the maths that the players are examining. Recently, the WNBA signed a landmark media rights agreement worth more than $2 billion over the next 10 years. That is money that transforms. That is the kind of money that modifies wealth between generations. The Women's National Basketball Players Association, WNBPA, saw that the owners were attempting to pull a quick one when the league proposed a $1 million wage cap for elite players. While the owners retained the great majority of the potential, they were attempting to lock the players into a set number. The players want more than simply a larger allowance. A piece of the pie is what they want. Revenue sharing is what they want. They want a cut of each jersey sold, each ticket scanned, and each ad that airs. They did more than just reject a contract when they turned down this offer. They disapproved of Cathy Engelbert's whole business strategy. For Cathy Engelbert, such rejection seems to be the last straw. Her reign has been characterized by a frantic attempt to strike a balance between the WNBA's elder guard and the emergence of the new age. She has been balancing on a tightrope for the last 2 years, and she eventually slipped off. You have to go back to the utter pandemonium of the previous season to comprehend why she is allegedly quitting. From beginning to end, it was a PR disaster. It began with the travel problems, as players had to use commercial planes while charter aircraft were only available to a select few. Then came the prioritization rule, which essentially took money out of players' wallets by making them choose between lucrative international contracts and the WNBA. However, the public spotlight caused the true harm. Do you recall the interview that turned things around? Cathy Engelbert was questioned on CNBC about the negative aspects of the increased fan interaction, including racism, internet abuse, and player toxicity. She changed to a corporate robotic response about rivalries and marketing rather than standing up for her players, drawing a clear line in the sand and denouncing the hatred. She likened the circumstances to those of Magic Johnson and Larry Bird in the 1980s. It was a catastrophe. The players were enraged. They had a sense of abandonment. They believed that the commissioner was just interested in using their suffering as a marketing tool to increase interaction. At the time, the Women's National Basketball Players Association, WNBPA, issued a statement questioning Cathy Engelbert's leadership, but she managed to get through it. Because the owners believed she could still provide the financial goods, she managed to endure it. However, she has now failed to provide the financial goods. The proprietors hired Cathy Engelbert from Deloitte. She was a numbers person and a corporate shark. It was her responsibility to expand the company. To her credit, the league's value has increased dramatically. A commissioner, however, has two responsibilities: manage the talent and please the owners. She was unable to establish a connection with the athletes who are the foundation of the company. If the players do not respect you, you cannot manage a sports league. It was evident that Cathy Engelbert had lost all authority when the players publicly humiliated the league by rejecting this historic gift. The owners came to the conclusion that the players would not sign while Cathy Engelbert remained in the big chair. She has come to represent the outdated methods, corporate, slow, and disconnected. Reports that Cathy Engelbert has resigned are now flooding the internet. Insiders say this was not a consensual decision. While the league is frantically trying to control the narrative by making ambiguous remarks about continuing conversations, the owners who really manage the league, known as the Board of Governors, are reportedly afraid of a lockout. They are aware of the risks. They are aware that their income will plummet in 2026 without Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, and the other stars. The WNBA's momentum is brittle. They may never get this kind of attention again if a labor conflict causes them to miss a season, or even a portion of a season. The commissioner must step down if they are the sole thing between a signed agreement and a lockout. The corporate press is probably framing it as a mutual parting of ways. Statements expressing gratitude for Cathy Engelbert's service, mentioning the league's expansion, and wishing her well will be visible. Let us face it, though, this seems to be a forced departure. The timing could not be more ideal. Panic struck once the CBA was rejected, and now the leader is departing. It seems that the players' tacit or explicit demands for a change in leadership have finally been met. For the Women's National Basketball Players Association, WNBPA, this is a huge win. It demonstrates that they have recognized their leverage and are not hesitant to use it. They understand that the only thing that counts is the product on the court. Additionally, the office outfits would be worthless without them. This instance demonstrates how the power dynamics in women's basketball have entirely changed. The WNBA pretended for decades that allowing women to participate was a favor. The marketing was non-existent. The travel was difficult, and the pay was cheap. The Caitlin Clark effect permanently destroyed the idea that players would be appreciative of the chance. Millions of new people saw Caitlin Clark when she joined the league. The cost of tickets skyrocketed. The arenas were full. Products were flying off the shelves. The gamers saw that even though they were the ones making the money, they were still treated like second-class people. Additionally, there is another significant aspect that probably caused Cathy Engelbert to leave. Unmatched. Nafisa Collier and Brianna Stewart started this new 3-on-3 league. This is more than a side gig. It directly challenges the monopoly of the WNBA. For only a few weeks of labor, Unrivaled offers athletes six-figure incomes, enormous equity, and a player-first atmosphere. The players now had a choice. All of a sudden, there were other games in town besides the WNBA. The stars could go play for Unrivaled in Miami, earn their money, and leave the WNBA in the dust if the league failed to pay up. In a world where she was no longer holding the bat, Cathy Engelbert attempted to play hardball. She was unaware that the monopoly had ended. The owners probably lost trust in Cathy Engelbert because she failed to see unrivaled danger. It seems that she undervalued the players' capacity to plan and construct their own infrastructure. Each participant developed their own leverage. They did not only want a larger portion. They constructed their own bakery. The WNBA was in a difficult situation as a result. To maintain their stars, they had to make the world an offer. The owners realized they needed a fresh negotiator after they made a $1 million offer and were still turned down. They need a trustworthy individual who is aware of the current state of athlete empowerment. Naturally, the establishment media is already attempting to misrepresent this. They accuse the athletes of being avaricious or unappreciative for declining $1 million compensation. Headlines that query, "Is this too much, too soon?" will appear, but resist the urge. This has nothing to do with greed. It has to do with maths. Asking for your fair share is not greed when the league is signing contracts for hundreds of millions, but the players are only allowed to sign agreements worth a small portion of that. About half of basketball-related earnings go to NBA players. Historically, just a small portion of money has gone to WNBA players. The players are not requesting non-existent funds. They want the money they made. During labor talks, the story of the avaricious athlete is a tried and true tactic to incite supporters against athletes. However, fans of this age are more intelligent. They see the stadiums that are completely filled. In some slots, they see TV numbers surpassing those of the NBA. They are aware that the funds are present. The league is still attempting to pocket the revenues while the women do the job, as this deal's projection made clear. By turning down the offer, the players exposed the company's true nature and removed its public relations facade. Unfortunately for Cathy Engelbert, she served as the company's public face. The resignation is just the start, so let us discuss what comes next. At this crucial juncture in its history, the WNBA risks a leadership void if Cathy Engelbert is indeed going. They need to quickly recruit a new commissioner. But who would be interested in this position? The job is a nightmare. You must engage in negotiations with a union that suspects wrongdoing. You have to deal with proprietors who are concerned about their profit margins, and you have to do it all in front of everyone. The future commissioner will need to have led throughout the conflict. They will have to cross what seems like a gorge. Additionally, a lockout is a real possibility. The 2026 season is really in jeopardy if a new contract is not reached quickly. Canceling the season immediately after the greatest growth year in history would be disastrous. A team would be suicide for the company. However, the players have shown that they are prepared to take a chance. They have put money aside. They now have other sources of revenue. To receive what they deserve, they are prepared to wait. A lockout is unaffordable for the owners. They have TV commitments to uphold, stadia to fill, and bills to pay. The league is under total pressure for the owners. This is why the resignation makes strategic sense. They hit the reset button by taking Cathy Engelbert out. They may hold her responsible for the impasse in the discussions. A traditional business tactic is to bring in a new face and say, "We are beginning fresh." Now let us discuss. To keep the agreement together, sacrifice the leader. It could be their one chance to prevent the 2026 season from completely collapsing. It enables them to go back to the table with the Women's National Basketball Players Association, WNBPA, and say, "We heard you. We made improvements. Now let us speak." In all of this we also need to take Caitlin Clark into account. Although Caitlin Clark has not openly called for Cathy Engelbert's dismissal, her silence says a lot. Superstars are in charge of the NBA, and WNBA these days. LeBron James can fire a coach if he so chooses. Caitlin Clark would have backed Cathy Engelbert if she thought she was the best leader. You can infer everything you need to know from the fact that the greatest celebrity in the sport, the woman who single-handedly transformed the league's economics, is supporting the union in opposition to the commissioner's offer. Caitlin Clark is more than a novice. She is a mediator of power. She just showed off her muscle. The other players are also coming together. The solidarity is evident on social media. They are sick of the investment mode justification, and the Bet on Women tagline has evolved into Pay Women. The WNBA owners maintained for years that they were unable to pay players because they were losing money. However, the players anticipate that the excuses will cease now that the money is coming in. Cathy Engelbert's greatest shortcoming was her incapacity to switch from survival to flourishing mode. She was an excellent general in times of peace, keeping the league alive during difficult times. But as the league flourished, she turned out to be a dreadful wartime general. What does this mean for us now? The WNBA is heading into peril if the rumors are accurate and Cathy Engelbert is out. A possible lockout that may end the 2026 season is right in front of us. The players are refusing to back down after drawing a line in the sand. The commissioner may be the first to die in this conflict, but she most likely will not be the last. There are challenges to the league's overall structure. Ownership groups may decide to sell. We may see a total reorganization of the league's operations. The next weeks will be crucial. We must keep an eye on the owners' potential replacements. Will they choose a previous athlete? The Women's National Basketball Players Association, WNBPA, would appreciate that. Will they choose a different business executive? That would indicate their desire to engage in combat. Additionally, we must pay attention to the language emanating from the Women's National Basketball Players Association, WNBPA. It is clear that this was a successful job if they applaud the resignation. If they remain mute, it indicates that their only concern is the money. The WNBA has outgrown its old skin in actuality. It involves letting go of the past, which is a difficult task. Cathy Engelbert is a symbol of the past, a period when the league was in dire need of stability, sponsors, and approval. However, the league is no longer in need of validation. It demands attention. Stability is not necessary. Equity is necessary. The players have changed throughout time. The supporters have changed throughout time. Additionally, the company has changed. The leadership was the only item that remained unchanged. This is far from the end of the narrative. Keep an eye on the other leagues as we await the formal news conference. Watch Unrivaled. Keep an eye on the international markets. The players are demonstrating their alternatives to us. In a market it once dominated, the WNBA is now battling for its own relevancy. The league's unwillingness to acknowledge that players are partners rather than workers is the root cause of the commissioner's departure. You must ask yourself whether the WNBA is prepared to treat its players as partners, or if it will fail in an attempt to preserve the status quo. We are living through history. The athletes have just initiated a revolution that will permanently alter women's sports. The commissioner has left. The future is entirely unwritten and the contract is dead. This is going to become a lot messier before it gets better, so stay tuned. They made her a record financial offer. They offered $1 million pay in the hopes that it would be sufficient to appease the detractors and ensure the league's survival. It was meant to be the definitive arrival of the WNBA and the ink on paper cementation of the new age. However, Caitlin Clark and the Women's National Basketball Players Association, WNBPA, achieved the unimaginable. They declined. They were not only hesitant, they left the table entirely. According to reports, the consequences of that refusal have now claimed the largest victim to yet. The league administration has shockingly informed us that Commissioner Cathy Engelbert is officially out. The rejection of this new CBA agreement. Please share your thoughts in the comment section, subscribe, and enable all notifications so you don't miss anything. We'll see you in the next one after you click the video on the screen.